I truly believe that children are our future, and this organization supports them and develops them, and I just couldn't wait to be a part of it.
The first thing I noticed that the Kiwanis Club was probably the liveliest group of people that I've ever met with and had lunch with in Robertson County.
As a school social worker for Robertson County Schools, I've been able to witness firsthand the positive impact Kiwanis has on our community. The mission of Kiwanis is to improve the world one child and one community at a time, and I feel like that aligns perfectly with my role as a school social worker.
I think the meetings are really interesting because it's not just focused on one certain thing. You got to hear from the fire department, and then we got to hear from the Isaiah 117 house, and so it's just a wide variety of things. You never know what you're going to walk into.
I think that the different speakers and presentations are very informative and interesting, and I really love being able to see all the members come together on fundraisers and just seeing all the unique talents come together to help the children in the community in our city.
I'm really excited about right now is the skate park that Springfield is going to build, and the Kiwanis Club has pledged $50,000 toward that project. My favorite annual project that we do is the toy drive for kids. If you're not familiar with it, it's a really big deal. Last year, I mean, we filled bags for all the kids that we had sign up, and then we were able to send several carloads of toys over to the Civitan Club in Greenbrier to help them out with their effort there.
My favorite thing about Kiwanis, the pancake breakfast. I used to help out with that when I was really young. I remember serving milk and all of these sort of things. It's been really cool to kind of come full circle as a kid, helping out with that, and then doing that in my adult years.
One of the programs that I enjoy participating in with one of our other club members, James Wade with AirTech, we actually do a program called Terrific Kids and Terrific Scholars. Terrific is an acronym that stands for thoughtful, enthusiastic, respectful, responsible, inclusive, friendly, inquisitive, and capable. Those are all leadership qualities that we're looking to instill in our youth. As they're growing up, they're learning what it means to be a great leader through some of those qualities. So the tennis wall that's down at Garner Street Park, we actually engaged with those scholars to have a design contest. When I was telling them about the project, I said, I can't wait for you to have your own kids and you to bring them down here and say, hey, look, that's my artwork on the wall, and to be proud of that.
The Rotary Club is a network of neighbors, friends, leaders, and problem solvers who take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Our Springfield Club has tons of fun by providing a bike to a girl and boy each semester in all local elementary schools. The bike recipients are chosen by demonstrating Rotary's mission of service above self. To date, our club has presented more than 150 bikes. In 1995, our club also founded the Robertson County Scholarship Foundation, which has awarded in excess of $1 million in scholarships to local students and has a current endowment of $1.1 million. We also host a Springfield golf tournament and a themed social networking event in the fall. Come join us any Wednesday for lunch at F&M Bank for fun, learning opportunities, and a hand in painting the landscape of our community just a little brighter.
As most of you know, July 1st starts our new year, so I want to go back and talk about our successes that we've had. It's been a good year, and our unemployment rate is at under 3%. Of course, all of you know you can't find employees. I don't know where they all went, but that's a great thing for our community. Everybody's in a job. We've experienced strong commercial growth, as you well know. You can drive down the road and see that we have new commercial businesses coming into town, and we set a record for our sales tax. We're $1.4 million ahead of budget, and that's because of each and every one of us in this room shopping local. We can't get everything in Springfield and Robertson County, but we're all doing a conscious effort to shop locally. We support those businesses, and we are giving back to our community because those tax dollars are staying here. For the city of Springfield, that means a lot. We can pave the city streets, we can have more parks, blah, 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 all the things we want. For the county, that goes to the school system and all the other things that they need too. So continue to shop local. Our safety of our community is very important, and this is the 5th consecutive year that crime rate is down. It dropped 19% in overall crime for the previous year. Violent crime is almost non-existent. But we have one topic before we move slides that we need to talk about, and I'm as guilty as the preacher, okay? Texting and driving. Did y'all hear what I said? Texting and driving. I'm so glad that Robert Fowler is not in the room because he texted me one day and said, "Stop texting on Memorial Boulevard." Jason, turn your ears off. This is bad. We went from 82 motor vehicle crashes to 135. Can y'all promise me you'll stop texting if I promise not to text on Memorial Boulevard? We need your help. We want this to be a desirable place to live, work, and play. We strive to meet the needs of all of our citizens, to provide services and amenities, and keep all of our neighborhoods strong. We want to make this a wonderful place to live, and we continue to work on it every day. One of the great things we're doing is the beautification. We had the tree planting on Batson Parkway. If you've been out on Batson Parkway, you see those new trees that have been planted, and they look great. We did the replacement of the trees downtown. We're going to do the welcome sign. That was in our new budget for this year. We are missing some of the welcome signs because of road construction, I believe. I'm looking over here at Mr. Clayton Moore. We're going to get all new signs, and we're going to make it pretty. That's important. The people driving in, they need to know that they're in the city of Springfield. Yesterday, we signed off on the crosswalk stamping for downtown Springfield because when you're crossing the street, probably the traffic needs to slow down. And so the crosswalks will help. I'm guilty as everybody else for driving too fast. I know, I do it. Our parks are such a great asset. When I get to go out to state meetings, this is one of the things that I get to brag on, because if you haven't been out to the parks, we have 280 acres in the city of Springfield in our parks department, and that includes the Greenway. J. Travis Price Park has had 2 new outdoor basketball courts and the sand volleyball. I think we're going to cut the ribbon on that very shortly. We have 9 new holes for disc golf. Anybody in the room played disc golf? Come on, somebody's bound to play. Thank you. Well, they tell me that we have the 14th best disc golf course in the state of Tennessee, and they just got that built. So that's great. I want to learn how to play that. Next year when I get up here, I want to tell you I learned to play disc golf. It's a lot like regular golf. You have a disc, just like you have so many different clubs to use at different places going up to the hole. Mountain bike trail is coming. It's underway out there at Travis Price Park too. Our Gardner Street. We're getting a skate park. Yay! Thank you, Springfield Kiwanis Club, for having that vision and raising that money to have a partnership with us. Batson Parkway Extension. I hate to even talk about this. I think the whole time I've been in office, we've talked about Batson Parkway, but it's at TDOT waiting to sign off on some environmental study, and then we're going to put that out for bid very shortly here in the fall. Our community events. If you haven't been to some of those, you're missing out. And I know everybody in this room has been out to First Friday Night Market. We had 22,000 people come through the gates at Travis Price Park for Winter Wonderland. Did y'all go see Winter Wonderland? And Mr. Terry Martin is planning better this year. So he always steps up for the challenge of making that a better Christmas event. People are coming from everywhere. If you notice when you drive through the park, they got different license plates that don't say Robertson County, and they spend their money here and they go on home. Right, Mayor Vogel? Amen. We had over 8,000 people to Freedom Fest, and that was a partnership the city of Springfield had with Grace Baptist. They're in the room. I want to thank you, Pastor Freeman, for that and bringing the Oak Ridge Boys. We have a lot of people in this room that have partnerships with us, and we are so blessed because we can't do it as a city by ourselves. First Friday Night Market every month has brought 2,500 to 5,000 people to come out and have the concerts that we sponsor. And then the group that has First Friday Night Market, that's a great partnership also. Legacy Golf Course. If you haven't been out to play golf, we are so blessed to have one of the best golf courses in the state of Tennessee. We're still listed in the top 15 public courses in the state of Tennessee. And last year we had 30,147 rounds of golf. I bet several of you in the room came out and played golf this year. I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands because you might have missed work. Everything's improving out there. They're continuing to improve the bunkers, new cart paths. I guess the golf course is how many years old? 26? 26? So sometimes you have to do a lot of repairs. It's just like your house. You got to work on the bunkers and you got to work on the new cart paths. Our tourism initiative we started last year. We hired for the first time our tourism coordinator, and that's Ace Tindemeyer. Stand up, Ace. We don't know where you're at. She's going to grow the tourism-related revenue for the city of Springfield. Now, if you're thinking about how are we paying for that out of your tax dollars, that came straight from hotel motel tax, and that's how we're paying for that position. Tourism in Springfield looks different than some of the other communities. Tourism is bringing people in to Friday Night Market, bringing people in for Freedom Fest, bringing people for Dixie Youth softball tournaments. Just this week, I heard them say we were going to bid on several more tournaments. They will stay in our hotels, they will go to Walmart, and they will visit the restaurants, and then they'll go home. And that's the kind of tourism dollars we want, correct? The goal is to simply attract local, state, and regional. Our golf course just had, Austin Peay hosted a golf tournament. They had 8 state colleges here. I bet they went to Walmart a time or two, don't you think? We have new adaptive programs, and that's one of the things that came out of this meeting last year, that we were told we were not serving all of our citizens. And so, of course, we had already had the park at Martin Luther King for the playground, exclusive playground, but we added the adaptive fishing rodeo and the Springfield Buddies baseball league. So these meetings are important. We listen, most of the time. Martin Luther King opened in May of 2021. It includes a playground that's for all abilities, and it's wheelchair accessible. Our special needs fishing rodeo, for the first time we had that. Springfield Baptist helped us with that, and they sponsored that. Thank you so much. With 8 participants, 20 family members, and all ages were there. Springfield Buddies Baseball League. We had 40 participants ranging from age 5 to 64. That was so much fun.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. And Chief Hayden, it sounds like that our criminal activity stats might go down a little bit if we can get Mayor Snyder under control. I'm not sure. It sounds like we've got some things here. So thank you all for being here. Kind of like the mayor said, thanks to the Rotary Club and Kiwanis Club for hosting this event. It amazes me, I was telling somebody earlier, it amazes me that this many folks would come out and want to hear us talk. And it's not that you really want to hear us talk, it's that you care about what's going on in our community. But let me tell you about somebody that I think has everybody in the room beat today. All right? This is somebody that chose to attend today, and I know you all, and I'm thankful for all of you that came today, that took time off work, time away from making money and that sort of thing. But there's somebody here today that did one better than that. And he's somebody that I know from church, and he is always inquisitive about what we're doing in the city. If there's a pothole, if there's a lane closure, if there's somebody's building something, he wants to know what's going on. So I tell his mother that I'm going to hire him when he gets old enough. But he's 10 years old, and he took a day of his summer break. Aiden, stand up, please. Aiden Dozier is here today. We also have some employees employees in the room, and that's really who our biggest asset is. And so hopefully those of you in the room that are business leaders and organizational managers, you know that employees are your greatest asset. If you don't, you do now, and you should know that. But our employees are the only way that we can get the services provided to you. And speaking of that, I want you to know that's all we do. Everybody that you just saw stand up in the room that's a department head, and anybody that works for the city of Springfield, one thing unites us all, whether they're wearing a police uniform or whether they're in the natural gas business or the electric business or fire protection, whatever it is. I tell our staff we're all united by the same purpose, and that's that we're all in the customer service business. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have any reason to be doing what we're doing. So it's important to us. That's our #1 mission at the city of Springfield, is to serve you. And so you should know that that's our philosophy. And we even had all of our staff go through mandatory customer service training last year, and they really loved me for that. But I think it was enjoyable. So a little bit more about Springfield. We have about 19,000 people according to the last census. We feel like we were a little undercounted, and it's probably, we know over 19,000 now. It's probably closer to 20 considering the growth that we've had, but the official census number was about 19,000. Springfield's about 12.5 square miles. A lot of people ask how big Springfield is. And we're about 12.5 square miles. We're a full service city. What does that mean? You hear that term thrown out a lot, especially when we're talking about what all we do. Well, we have your general fund department. So we have things like fire. You just saw that fire. Parks. And Terry Martin, our parks director, is on a well-deserved vacation this week after baseball and softball season. So he's out this week. Parks, police, streets, all of those things that you would think that a city would normally do. But we do more than that. We have 6 utilities. A lot of areas in the state and in the country are serviced by private utilities, a private gas system, electric co-op. You know, some of you that may live out in the county are serviced by an electric cooperative. We also are in the water business, the wastewater business, natural gas, sanitation, and stormwater. So 6 utilities, 2 cemeteries. We have the Elmwood Cemetery on Richard Street and the Oddfellow Cemetery on South Main. 1 golf course that the mayor mentioned that we're really proud of, although we do try to keep it a secret that the city owns the golf course, because we don't want anybody to know it's a municipal golf course. Everybody thinks of it as a private golf course, and we're okay with that. It doesn't hurt our feelings at all. So general fund department, 6 utilities, 2 cemeteries, a golf course, and as I usually say, a partridge and a pear tree to go with that. We have a city manager form of government. That's the question that the mayor and I get a lot is, what's the difference? What does Mayor Schneider do versus what you do? Mayor Schneider is our chief elected official in the city of Springfield. She is the head of our board of mayor and aldermen. She's elected at large by the city, but our government's set up just a little bit different. So if you think about it, you can liken it kind of to the private sector. And the private sector has a board of directors over the corporation. And then the board of directors will hire a CEO to run the day-to-day operations of the company. Well, ours is kind of similar to that. Our board of mayor and aldermen, they handle the legislative aspects of things. They are the people that are directly accountable to you via the electorate. But they also set your taxes. They set rates, they set fees. Those are the things that our board of mayor and aldermen does and serve a vital function. And then they, for some strange reason, I think they couldn't find anybody better, hired me to be the city manager and administer the day-to-day functions of city government. We have 263 employees. 260 of those are full-time and 3 of those are part-time. That may make you say, well, that's a lot of employees for such a small town. It sounds like that, but remember, we do a lot of things that other cities don't do. Okay? We have the 6 utilities, so it takes a lot of folks to deliver those services to you. But one stat that we are proud of is that human resource expenditures represent only 20.5% of citywide expenses. Those of you that are in service industries, you know that that number is generally about 50 to 60% or sometimes higher of what your organizational expenses are each year. We're proud of having that number low at 20.5% and still be able to take care of our employees to the extent that we can. How are we funded? As Mayor Schneider told you, we have a fiscal year that runs July 1st to June 30th. Our total city budget this year is over $103 million. That's how much it takes to run those garbage trucks and to get that electricity to you, and to get that water and collect your wastewater, which we'll talk about, unfortunately. Our general fund budget out of that 103 million is 23 million. So 23 million is what funds police, fire, parks, streets, those regular city things. And the $80 million gap is what it takes. The difference there is what it takes to get the remainder of the services to you. Of that 23 million, sales tax accounts for 9 million. 7.2 million of that is local option sales tax, and 1.8 roughly is the state shared sales tax. Property tax, there's a big deal a lot of times made about property tax. And people talk about property taxes really way more than they should, because property taxes don't really account for that much of our revenue. Most of what we do isn't funded by property tax. You can see that of the $23 million on the regular services that we provide, I mean 20%, is what property tax really funds of that. Speaking of property taxes, we're ranked about 133rd of 284 jurisdictions in the state of Tennessee, so somewhere around the middle of the pack, and we do have the lowest property tax rate of the 3 largest cities in Tennessee. No offense to anybody from White House or Greenbrier in the House today, but we have lower property tax rates. And it's something that you can brag about if you get the job done. If you're not getting the job done and bragging about a low property tax rate, don't brag about the low property tax rate. But we've got a lot of things we've got to do with all the growth coming, but we feel like we're in a pretty good spot with our property tax rate at the present time. Mayor Schneider talked about our fiscal year 22 successes. I'm going to talk a little bit about our budget for this year and some things that are on the horizon. But first I want to remind you, those of you that were here last year will kind of remember this discussion, but this is something that's very important. And some folks told us that they appreciated learning this last year. And so what we have to know about what the city of Springfield does is that our utilities, I talked about electric, water, wastewater, gas, sanitation, all of those have to operate by state law as independent businesses. We used the example, I think, in some meetings that said, well, how do you give a community center $1 million when we go up on my sewer rates, right? Funds were coming from 2 different places and they're not allowed to cross paths at all. The Comptroller's Office in the state of Tennessee regulates that very closely, sometimes more closely than we like, but those are siloed businesses, and it's just like you have a company, that company can't commingle funds with another company, and they keep that separate. So our wastewater business has to be separate from our gas business, has to be separate from our electric business, and so forth. The good news is no property tax increase this year. We do have a water rate decrease. Oftentimes in government they say, well, when they take it from us, if they go up, we'll never get it back. They'll never go back down. I want you to know today that's not true for the city of Springfield. If we don't need it, we're not going to take it. So we're going down on our water rates this year. Unfortunately, that's about the best news I have on this slide. Our wastewater rates are going up again. We have some of the highest sewer rates in Middle Tennessee. We know that. And we'll get into the details of why here in just a second. But we do have another increase in wastewater. But we don't have an increase in the base rate for electric and gas, which is really good and really positive. However, let's talk about energy costs, and everybody knows what's happened. I think most of you have probably been to a gas pump in the last few weeks. If you haven't, still don't go. If you can keep avoiding that thing, keep avoiding it. But I don't get that luxury. My truck, I think, can't pass a gas station, it seems like. So, but what's happened is you've got some macroeconomic conditions that are unstable. That's a fancy word. What does that mean? Inflation, supply chain, instability with the conflict in Ukraine that has economic implications. And what all that does is that places pressure on the market for energy, okay? And when we're trying to provide you with electricity and we're trying to provide you with natural gas, that creates a problem. And that drives things up. And so all of those factors contribute to a rise in energy costs. Our base rates didn't change, but you're probably saying, some of you are, but my bill went up. Well, that's because every month we have to adjust our rates. In electric, it's called a fuel cost adjustment. In gas, it's called a purchase gas adjustment for market conditions, because the difference between our electric and gas utilities versus our water utility is we make the water, except for a secondary source. We make the water and we send it to you. But with electric and gas, we have to buy it off the market, or get it electric we get from TVA, and we have to send that along to you. So we're subject to whatever those cost adjustments are. But know that that's a small portion of your rate, and that the base rate had no increase in the fiscal year 23 budget. Wastewater, you know, I brought this guy back from last year. I'm grateful that he was willing, whoever this guy is, willing to take this picture, because that's how I feel about every time we talk about wastewater. Sorry, Terry Beers. We'll start with some good news. The good news is we are finished with the EPA. For those of you that remember or that are aware of and paying attention, we're under what's called an administrative order on consent with the EPA. And that's a fancy way of saying the EPA is telling us exactly what we're supposed to do. You know, I think the federal government's good at that from time to time. So, we've spent about $63 million on our collection system. For those of you that have heard this before, there are two facets to the wastewater system. There's the pipes in the ground, our collection system, and then there's the treatment plant. So, hopefully everybody's done it. When you poop, and that toilet flushes, it goes into the pipes in the ground. Those pipes in the ground carry it out to Lawrence Lane where our wastewater treatment plant is. And sorry to be so graphic, but we're really just trying to understand it. Our collection system was in bad shape, and we had to spend $63 million on fixing those pipes in the ground. And you've probably seen recently in the last month or so some work going on in front of the Robertson County Innovation Academy, not Springfield Middle School, where Dr. calls it, the Robertson County Innovation Academy. So I'm getting there. I'm getting there. It's going to be a long time to rid myself of the lingo. The worst news is that now we're due for a new plant. And that's going to cost $47 million, according to our latest cost estimate. Why do we need a new plant? First of all, ours is aging. I mean, the lifespan of a plant's about 35 to 40 years old, and we've about hit that. But also, we've got a lot of growth. We've got a lot of new folks moving in. So we've got to increase the size, and actually what we're going to do is double the capacity of the plant from 3.4 million gallons per day to 7 million gallons per day. So that's a good segue into us talking about the growth that we're experiencing. This number still scares me, but we've approved 3,128 new residential units in the city of Springfield. And there's some real estate folks in the room, and y'all got to chill out. Stop selling this stuff so fast. Man. 3,128 new residential units. And I put approved in all caps there because I want you to know these aren't concepts. These aren't things that people have called us up and say, hey, I'm thinking about X, Y, or Z. These are things that have gone through the entitlement process. We've got plats or site plans, and everything's gone through the approval process, and they're just ready to be built. Some of them are already being built. But we've approved 3,128 new residential units. What does that really mean? If you look at the census average of 2.54 per household, so the census says there's 2.54 people per household on average in the city of Springfield, that's an increase in population of 7,900 people. Remember, I told you we're about at 19,000. So that's a 40% population increase. Now, how soon is that going to happen? No idea. Everybody that comes in the door says they're going to build it tomorrow. We know that supply chain and things like that are going to prevent that from happening. So we're expecting over the next 10 to hopefully 15 years, that would give us a little bit more time. But really 5 to 10 is when we expect to see a lot of those things come to completion. More concepts have been proposed. So this is just the approved number. We've got a lot of folks that have done that, pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this or this or this. And so we know that we're not going to stop at that 7,900. So what is the city of Springfield doing about it? That's probably what most of you came to hear about today. We approve system development fees, also known as impact fees, but we can't say impact fees because that's a cuss word. So we're going to stick with system development fees and say it that way. But the Board of Mayor Aldermen approved those recently. What does that mean? The idea behind that is that the growth will pay for the growth. So at the time a building permit is issued, you come to pick up a building permit, you'll pay a special fee that will go into, there's 5 different funds, fire, police, parks, streets, and general government, that will go into those funds that help pay for the needed growth. And that's the only thing they can be used for. A lot of people think impact fees will be used to pay for stuff that should have been done a long time ago or it's broken. It can't be used for that. It can only be used to pay for the growth. I'll give you an example. I told you we were building a 7 million gallon per day plant versus our 3.4. We can only use those system development fees to pay for that increase of 3.6 million gallons. So we'll have to use other funds to pay for that 50% of that cost. So it can't pay for replacement of things that you just need to replace. The question that came up and kind of how this originated is, should current residents have to pay for us having to build a wastewater treatment plant that's twice the size of the one that we have now? Because again, you don't have any problem right now with a 3.4 million gallon per day plant. And of course, the board responded to that, and the answer being no. And so we have the system development fees in place. They're kind of staggered in and will take effect in September as a graduated effect, and then in January officially. Will system development fees stifle growth? That's what people have wondered. That's what we wondered, and we have had that question too. Will it harm the growth? We hired a consultant to perform the study for us, and historically the answer is no. You don't see system development fees stifle growth, and the reason for that is because when you have demand, somebody needs to supply it. And if you're the supplier, you make money. And so what we've been told by folks is that as long as there's money to be made, somebody's going to supply that demand. And we know that demand is high in Middle Tennessee, specifically in Springfield right now. So those fees are going to help us pay for new stuff, streets, fire protection. We're getting ready to have to beef up fire protection. Additional police officers will have to be on the streets, so that way when Mayor Snyder's texting down Memorial Boulevard, they'll be there, you know, to get her, all right? What else are we doing? Plans, planning, and more plans. I'm big on planning. I think it's important to know what you're going to do. Yogi Berra agrees with me on this. He said, if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up somewhere else. I mean, if anybody can figure out what Yogi's saying, but I agree. President Eisenhower, this was shared with me by Jerry Converse, wherever Jerry is in the room. It was shared with me a couple weeks ago. President Eisenhower said, plans are nothing, but planning is everything. And that's what we're doing. We're doing that right now. We completed the system development fee study that I told you about. We completed that in 2022, and those have already been implemented. We just completed a Parks Master Plan. A lot of you in the room participated in that via our meetings that we had that we put out on social media. You responded to that, you came, you filled out the survey online or through social media. We're thankful for that because we need your input. The parks are for you. They're not for, I mean, I'm going to use them too. My son loves our parks, but they're for you. I mean, so we need to know what you want to see as we move forward, and that plan also is going to help us with the growth moving forward. We're doing a fiber to the home plan study. We mentioned last year, and you've probably seen it via social media or news agencies, that we're exploring the feasibility of putting fiber internet to the house in Springfield. And so we're in the midst of a feasibility study on that, and that began earlier this year, and so we're hoping to wrap that up later this fall. Facilities plan study. We're going to need new fire stations. We're going to need a new police department. Our police department headquarters it's overdue, but we're going to need that. We're going to need a new water wastewater department. We're going to need new facilities. Part of that just comes with growth and replacement. And so the way we want to plan for that. So we've started a study on that as well. That began about a month ago. And then this fall, we'll start our comprehensive growth plan study. We know where our urban growth boundary extends now, which is our lingo of saying we know how far we can annex and go. But there's a whole lot more people coming, and we're getting annexation requests from actually outside of that urban growth boundary. So we need to plan for that. I want you to know, we're not just grabbing property and annexing here and going there. We're really being meticulous and careful, or trying to, and being thoughtful about what we do and how we grow. One of the most important things about our philosophy on growth is people are coming to Springfield for a reason. And we welcome them. We're great with that. We've got a lot of folks that are coming here, and they're all great. I've met people from so many different states in just the last few months, and we're grateful for that. But we want to retain our identity too. That's why they're coming here. They're coming here because they like what Springfield is, right? They get that historic small town feel. They get to be close to Nashville. They like that. So we want to retain that, but welcome those folks at the same time. So we're trying to be meticulous about that. Our strategic plan was updated earlier this year. We meet every year, our leadership staff and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, we get together and we talk about our strategic plan. And some of those highlights were continuing to improve citywide aesthetics. All right, Mayor Snyder walked you through some stuff that we're doing with beautification, welcome signs, trees, crosswalk standing. That's going to be wonderful when it gets done on the square. It'll look like brick crosswalks, all of those things. So please know that we don't do a plan and then put it on the shelf and say, well, we did a plan. We actually go with it. We do it for a reason. We execute the plan. Repair and upgrade the city's infrastructure. We're working on that as well, so that way things don't fall into disrepair again. We want to promote our school system. That's part of our strategic plan. We have a great school system and a great director of schools and his leadership team, and so we want to come alongside them where we can, promote them, help them, give them grants where we can, and do that sort of thing, because we know that directly affects people in the city of Springfield. And plan for the replacement of city facilities. That's part of our strategic plan, and I told you we've already approved that plan and put it into motion. So what's on the horizon? Fire station number 3 will be something that you'll hear a lot about coming soon. We've got to have a 3rd fire station. It'll be located in South Springfield, where a lot of the growth is. A lot of you know that there's over 1,000 residences coming to residential units coming to the southern part of Springfield. So we've got to have fire service and fire protection out there, and those system development fees will hopefully help pay for a portion of that. Electric vehicle charging station. This is the new thing. I mean, we see electric vehicles around Springfield, and TVA, who is our electric supplier, is making a big pitch to get that infrastructure built out. And because we have an electric utility, we're prime suited for one of those grants. And so hopefully sometime in the next year, you'll see an electric vehicle station that'll actually be, first one will be located in the City Hall parking lot to service downtown, the center, and City Hall. And we'll have future ones along the way. And hopefully we'll continue to obtain grant funding from TVA, because if TVA wants to pay for it, that sounds good to me. And then you don't have to, right? The crosswalk stamping project that Mayor Snyder mentioned in the Batson Parkway extension. New commercial development. Mayor Snyder mentioned a lot of new businesses, 119 total in 2021 and 72 already this year in 2022. Can we break some news? You will hear in the next week, we're going to make it hopefully worth your while for having come today. Everybody looked up. Brother Steve, you were asleep and you just woke up for that one.
Just following your lead.
You will hear in the next few days that, actually beginning this afternoon, the county budget committee, and then it'll come before the city next week, an agreement with a company that's going to build and lease to Chick-fil-A store in Springfield. It's not finished yet, but those discussions will be taking place. There's some infrastructure things that have to take place, and so we're working with them on that. And so we're going to be working through that. So I'd rather you hear it here than on Hip Springfield. I love Hip Springfield. Actually, I don't know much about Hip Springfield, but I hear it's a great place for some wretched conspiracy theories. So maybe I'll check it out this evening. But anyway, that's exciting. There are just a lot of good things going on commercially in Springfield, and so we're excited. Chick-fil-A's been interested for about a year and a half. And it's been those things just take a long time to come to fruition. And so it's really just a matter of us playing matchmaker and trying to get the right setup for them. And so they finally landed somewhere, and we're excited to help them through that process. We're prepared for the growth. At least we think we are. I mean, we're prepared. We knew it was coming. We know it's coming. I told you we're expecting this over the next 10 to 15 years. And so we've secured enough water for the future. We've got a secondary water source with Logan Todd Regional Water Commission. We buy 2.33 million gallons of water per day from them to make sure we've secured enough water for our future, in addition to what we make at our water treatment plant. We're building a new wastewater treatment plant. We're continuing Batson Parkway to help alleviate the traffic congestion. And we've made some extensions to our gas system to help accommodate the growth as well. And like I told you, the 3rd fire station as well. Y'all, Springfield's just a place to be right now. A lot of people have recognized that, and we've known it for a while, those of us that have been here a long time, and Springfield's a place to be. The census data was just released. I saw it, I think, on News 2, but Robertson County was the 5th wealthiest county in the state of Tennessee by household income, so there's a lot of money here that people don't realize. There's a lot of money in Robertson County, and so that's why those sales tax revenues are going, and we encourage you to continue to shop local. We were listed as a top 4 place to build by the CEO of a major regional home builder. That was in the National Business Journal lately. We're safer. Mayor Snyder talked about violent crime, safer than cities in Tennessee such as Clarksville, Lebanon, and you see that mess there. So we're excited about the trajectory that we're on and where we're headed. And we have a great school system here. I mentioned the Robertson County Innovation Academy. We have a STEAM magnet school located right here in the middle of Springfield, and we're grateful that Dr. Causey and the Board of Education decided to put that here. in Springfield.